Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I've got two of my favorites here on the line today. I've got Lee Murphy and Craig Steele of Exclusive Pursuit Outfitters. Guys, how you doing?
Doing good, Jay. How about you?
I'm doing great. It's great to have both of you. Now, what the listeners don't know is for about 10 minutes, we've been jacking around on the phone, having all kinds of good time, and then all of a sudden I introduce you guys, and you guys go immediately into professional mode. I love it.
We're not that serious.
So
I don't know about that.
We've heard all about arm wrestling matches and everything else, and so now we'll get down to business. Guys, we're about 5-6 days away from the draw. The applications being due for antelope and elk in the state of Arizona, and I want to talk to you guys about the units that you guys like for elk and antelope, but I can't help talk about Arizona elk without talking about Unit 10 with both of you. You guys are the masters at Unit 10 elk, and you're phenomenal, both of you, with antelope as well. Let's talk a little bit about Unit 10 right now. What are you seeing as far as conditions with what we have, the data that we have going into the draw? How does Unit 10 look so far?
Right now, the conditions, I think you've had other guys touch on this too on the podcast in the last few weeks, but the conditions the outlook is good. There was, the considerable amount of snow with some rain under it late November. The conditions are still wet up there if you get in under the surface of the ground. In the shady slopes, north slopes, there's still a lot of moisture. It's still pretty wet. So, the outlook is it's a good outlook looking into the spring. Once we get a little bit of warm up, things will green up. So I think it'll at least be an average horn growth year. It'll depend on, what kind of timing we get for storms and precipitation here in the next couple months, as just how good it will be. But indications right now look good.
When you come off of a year like we had last year where antler growth was great, good winter moisture, very lackluster monsoons, but good antler growth, the question is, can we put 2 good years of antler growth together? And, you can't predict what the future is going to hold very well, but going into it with good antler growth last year, as far as holdover bulls or carryover bulls, how do you think we sit going into this season, maybe even compared to into last season? Do you think some of the best bulls got harvested? Do you think some of the best bulls are still there? Talk a little bit about that.
Go ahead.
Considerable amount of holdover bulls, don't you, Craig?
I do. I do. Unit 10's impacted a lot by the Walpi Reservation, and living over here in Kingman, I get a chance to talk and grew up with a lot of natives. And one of my good friends, he was flying in the helicopter here a few weeks ago, and he was just surprised at the number of big bulls that he saw, and bulls that weren't broke. I think the thing that we saw that this year, because of the monsoon, was just so horrible. I think we can safely state it was the worst monsoon we've had in history in parts of Arizona. I think it did something to the elk biologically to where they didn't rut as strong. There were some big bulls killed throughout the state, on the Wallapai and on some of the other reservations, but the elk were in some different spots and acting, fairly, unique. They seemed like some of the older bulls we noticed weren't rutting as hard, and we killed several bulls that just going into, late September had piles of fat on them, which by then, on a good monsoon year, on a good rut year, sometimes they're already leaned out by then, you know.
From chasing
so much. And, you know, not that the elk didn't rut, because there definitely was rut, but it made it a little bit more difficult, you know, especially if you couldn't glass. We heard, I don't know how many people did we hear that were friends or whatever that were hunting all over, you know, the western Arizona anyway, and they were having hell just finding elk, just because it was, you know how it is, Jay, when the elk don't rut that hard in the flat, dense juniper country, unless you're sitting on water, it can be a challenge, you know, or you can glass them. So I think there was a lot of holdover bulls from that, and then, you know, like Lee was talking about, the storms in late November, early December that we had. Speaking of Unit 10 and some of the western units, specifically we know of Unit 10 because we had some hunters in there as well. The late season basically was just trashed by a storm that put down, I don't know, 16 to 24 inches or something like that. And, you know, I had one of my best friends, he spent the night out there and had to get pulled out by search and rescue. And there was, I just think it saved a number of bulls that would have normally been killed on that late season. And, you know, going off what my other buddy was saying on the Walpi reservation, that, you know, and from what we saw, you know, I know Lee and I saw a number of bulls, you know, speaking of Unit 10, that were, you know, good quality bulls that were, we didn't hunt them, you know, just because, you know, our hunters all killed, and we had one early rifle hunter, and we were looking for the right bull. But I know 18A is on the limited opportunity side, which is south of Unit 10. That unit was a little bit different, going into that late rifle hunt's a little bit later, but that archery hunt's a 3-week hunt, and those archery hunters hammered the bulls in there because they were really pounding water. So that unit's probably going to be impacted differently, but Unit 10, you know, on the Boquillas you can't sit water, and, you know, some of the forest stuff and other places isn't really conducive because you got so much pressure there, you know, as far as sitting water. But that's my opinion on it. I think it's going to be as good as it's been in the last 5 years. And reading, I was kind of quiet at the beginning because I was reading. I didn't know that we had a storm coming, but anyway, one of the other coaches was telling me we had a storm coming next week because we got tryouts for softball, and I was just reading it, and they're kind of bumping up they're calling this a deep trough moving in from Southern California, and they're not sure how much of precipitation it's going to put down, but they're kind of being optimistic about it right now. And here it is the 5th of February, and, you know, this is really good timing for the storm to hit if it does hit. So
absolutely. You know, there's so many questions that come to my mind with all the stuff you guys are saying. The trend, if you will, we talk about trends. We talk about, a unit's trending up, unit's trending down. You know, there was time a handful of years ago when, you know, there was 200 early rifle tags, and there was, you know, I think 200 archery bull tags. And now it seems like, you know, we're back to the 100 archery bull, and, you know, what are we at, 20 or 30 early rifle, maybe 40 early rifle tags. What have you seen as far as dropping the tags? How has that impacted what you guys see on a day-to-day basis out there in Unit 10? I mean, do you think we're in a position where we're holding steady as far as age class, or do you think we're actually our age class is actually going up, and those tag allocations where they've dropped the tags, you've really seen an improvement there?
I think we're seeing a steady increase in the age class because of those tags being held where they're at. I can't remember if this is the 3rd or 4th year they've been at 40 and 100 for archery, but it's definitely shown us an increase in age class. It's where we hunt there on the east side. We get to see that. We get to see bulls come back every year because of the lack of hunt pressure there on the private land that we hunt on. And we get to see these bulls kind of grow up and give, the same bulls come back year to year, and we've seen that. So I think it's definitely on the uptick. 10 is on the uptick, and then with the conditions we had this last year, a slow rut and the late hunt, guys just not being able to access certain country, it saved the lives of quite a few bulls that normally would have gotten killed. So I think this year there's a really good outlook for Unit 10 on what guys are going to be able to hunt this year.
When you spread out, 100 tags over Unit 10, there's a lot of country for guys, so that 100 tag number seems like a really good number to have high quality hunting. And then with, half of the ranch taken in the Boquillas, Lee, you happen to be the permit manager. You work for the leasee that leases the land there. Correct me if I overstate anything, but half of that ranch, they do have some restrictions on sitting water, and they have some restrictions on some different things. It seems like a scenario that sets Unit 10 up to be, if we can get, continue with good moisture, it just seems like we can maybe bring it back potentially, to the heyday of, say, 2005. I'm just wondering if that's me being too optimistic, or if yes, you think that if they can keep the tag numbers where they're at, with the late hunt, numbers being down, with the, archery tags, keep them at 100, keep the early rifle at 40. I mean, is it possible with good moisture that we could see the years of yesterday where it was, lots of big bulls? Do you think that that's a possibility over the next year or two, 3?
Yeah, I think depending on the weather pattern, it definitely is possible. The lack of trail cameras on the big Boquillas, not being able to sit water, those restrictions that are in place there is all in a bull's favor to get older and to avoid some of them getting killed. And so every one of those that slips through the cracks every year has a chance to get a year older. Elk have a longer cycle to get to full maturity, to really blossom and show what they really can be. So I think those rules being in place on the ranch, there's some guys that aren't in favor of it, but I think the guys that see the big picture, there's quite a few guys that are in favor of that because they've seen the fruition of what's become of those rules. And I think that's why a good majority of the hunters end up hunting there every year, even regardless of those rules. They go there because they know they're gonna be able to find some really special bulls.
Yeah, and I mean, for the listeners that are maybe new to Unit 10 and don't know the information, I mean, and Lee can tell me the specifics, but we're talking about I think a 5 or 6, maybe even bigger, 500,000 or 600,000 acre ranch that's kind of, half of the unit, if you will, and it definitely is a lot of the elk country part of the unit. And then you've got the stuff up north, which has a lot of the antelope stuff, but it's a private ranch that they do allow public access. There is a fee if you draw a tag. You do buy the fee. Lee is the permit coordinator. He handles all of the paperwork transactions to make sure everyone's got all of the access fees and knows all the rules and what have you. But Lee, like you're saying, with some of those rules, and one of them being trail camera, one of them can't sit water, it does limit the hunter in a way that maybe in some other units where they can really use trail cameras, which I'm a 100% proponent for trail cameras. I'm a proponent of not restricting as much as possible, but it does set up for a scenario and then not be able to sit water, so that throws people out in the field. Yeah, maybe from a hunting standpoint, it kicks people out there cow calling and bugling, and maybe where half the people would be sitting in the afternoon, now they're out there chasing elk around. but if it's dry, those guys can sit water and pound those big bulls on water. And so it seems like it's set up for a scenario that, some older age class bulls can make it through year after year, and, potentially Unit 10 can retake the top throne of being the best in the state with those rules in place. Just, reiterate a little bit about the Boquillas and, how you think that, it being open to the public, how it's actually a good thing that maybe some of these restrictions, because the icing or the light at the end of the tunnel is you're going to get some more age class probably because of these rules.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of that right there, Jay, that it's, I'm not going to say that we don't use trail cameras, because we use trail cameras where we can, in public land hunts and other units. But there is something to the trail cameras. They do increase hunters' odds of finding older age class elk, bucks, whatever you're hunting. But I think that is one of the positive offsets of not using cameras on there, that, regardless of where you stand on the trail camera issue, that it helps, it gives the bulls an out, and the deer, whatever you're hunting there, that they don't get found as easily. So it gives them a better shot of survival, and I think that long term that's going to benefit the hunters for being able to kill really big bulls and increase the age class. Some of the other rules, like not sitting water, I think that's absolutely correct about sitting water. Last year, I think there would have been a lot more elk killed if hunters could sit water, because guys were really struggling. Water was scarce, even on the Boquillas, where there's quite a bit of water troughs and pipeline water. The bank water was getting low all across Unit 10, so guys sitting water would have probably killed a lot more bulls. I'll be really interested to see what the harvest success rate was on the archery hunt from last year for Unit 10 when those results come out.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions on Instagram and try and field as many questions as I can with the Q&A. And every year there's probably 6 to 10 people that send me a message, say, I've drawn a Unit 10 tag. Do you think it's worth me getting the Boquillas permit? And, my answer every time is absolutely. I mean, you have the opportunity to hunt on a ranch that, it's a very, very small fee for what you get in return. I mean, you do the same ranch over in New Mexico, and people would pay, $20,000 just to access the ranch of something of this caliber. So any of you listening and you're planning on putting in for Unit 10, absolutely plan on getting the permit for sure, where you have access to hunt on the Boquillas, have access to hunt off the Boquillas, so you're open to all of Unit 10 that's open and available to the public. Now, you guys specifically have some other private land that's not owned by the same owner of the Boquillas, where you guys operate some private land hunting in Unit 10. Talk a little bit about your opportunities. I've had several friends that have hunted with you, Tyler Hall last year, and Rebecca Miller, Mike Miller's wife, I believe her name's Rebecca, hunted with you and killed a phenomenal bull on the early rifle hunt. But talk about your opportunity there, the uniqueness of that opportunity to hunt private land in Unit 10 there, and some of the conditions and opportunity that presents for your hunters.
It's one of those things. I've always been a hunt public land, grind it out, type guy, and I started guiding up there with Lee in 2011, and we started our own deal, kind of guiding up there for Exclusive Pursuit Outfitters in 2014. And every time hunters call me about it, found out that from talking to you and, you know, other hunters that have hunted with us that, you know, that have been around the block a time or two trying to, you know, basically chase trophy elk, that I completely undersell it. It is a you know, it's special because, you know, it's limited access, and, you know, like Lee said earlier, we get a chance to see, you know, a lot of the bulls that we hunt are bulls that, you know, don't winter on us. They go with the res, or they come from Unit 9, or they come from Unit 7, or, you know, bulls that we have on there during the summer and go somewhere else to rut, you know. Not always, but occasionally, and it's a real joy to be able to actually see elk in their most natural state, you know, kind of like how you get to in Colorado, Jay. And we get to see some of these bulls come back year after year, and that's how we're kind of, I guess, privileged to, you know, be able to watch a bull grow up, and being able to hunt that bull. A lot of that country in there, we can hunt it. The landowners there allow us to sit water, and we're also, you know, able to glass some of it. There's some country that lends itself to glassing, so we can do a number of different things there. And obviously, we can hunt bulls in the rut, either dogging them or, you know, trying to call them in. And it's just a special place. Last year, I think we had all but one hunter killed, and he only hunted. Speaking of the archery hunts, and he only hunted, I think, 3.5 or 4 days, and he had an annual event that he had to go to, and Lee and I were begging him to come back because all of our hunters were tagged out, and we still had some good bulls that we wanted to hunt, but he wasn't able to get back there, and we killed, you know, I think our bulls averaged around 368 gross is what they averaged, and it's just a really special place. And the year before that, 2018, when, you know, it was the big antler growth drought year, you know, bulls had dropped off 40, you know, 30, 40, 50 inches. I can't remember. Lee, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you're better at the numbers than I am, but I want to say everybody but one hunter killed that year as well. And I think we averaged probably around 350-ish gross. Is that right, Lee?
Yeah, that's that's about right.
And so it's a real consistent place to hunt, and that's what kind of sets it apart. Is, you know, you look at the Unit 10 average unit wide, it's usually like the harvest data shows it's usually like a 25 or 30% success rate, whereas we're averaging about, you know, depending on what bulls guys want, but, you know, over the last 2 years we've averaged about, you know, 75 to, you know, 85% success rate on bulls, you know, in that, you know, like I said, averaging in that 350 to, you know, basically almost 370 range, which, as you know, Jay, you know, 380 to 400 isn't, you know, is a giant. And we kind of, depending on the hunter and what their experiences are, you know, we kind of set guys up that, you know, if they haven't killed many bulls, or, you know, they're just looking for a great experience, that, you know, we can damn sure get opportunities to kill 350 bulls. And yeah, we're going to see bulls that are a lot bigger than that, and we've killed bulls that are, you know, well over 400 gross on the ranch, and it's an extremely special place because, you know, just the consistent ability to take bulls with your bow, because you are hunting land that is, you know, predominantly private, and, you know, we have control of the access. So I completely undersell that place, but I know, you know, I had a public land tag this year for myself in early October, and I saw one bull in 6 days. The public land hunting, just like probably everywhere in Arizona, is kind of turned into a little bit of a, in my opinion, a little bit of a madhouse, because, you know, everybody seems to be bringing 2, 3, 4 guys, and every guide brings 2, 3, 4 guides to help them, and it's extremely competitive nowadays. And information, everybody's got trail cameras and everybody's got phone scopes, which is cool, but it makes for some hard hunting on the public.
Something you said there reminded me of you drawing your own tag and seeing one elk, and what people need to understand is it's a bull that when Craig shot it ended up being broken, but if not broken would have been well over 430 inches, right, Craig?
Yeah, honestly, I thought he was 430. Lee kept telling me the bull was, Lee and my dad kept telling me the bull was well over 440, and he would have been well over 440. But,
and what I remember about that is you texting me, if I remember right, you'd been hunting and, you'd been guiding all season, and then you had your own hunt, and then you'd been like 3 or 4 days, and you're like, I don't know if he's going to show. I'm going to hunt for him. And you literally went the whole time and never saw him. Wasn't it like the last evening or something, and then he shows up and you ended up killing him?
Yeah, I'd actually text.
Your wife, I think.
I text my wife and told her that I was done, and I'd actually text Lee before that, or after that, just because we had some the raffle sheep hunter coming to town, and we had some other hunts that were just all that pressure. And I'd already been gone, and Lee was doing another hunt, so I was by myself with my dad. My dad's helping me, but my dad can't go and get up and glass like a spring chicken anymore, and so I was actually by myself a lot, or pretty much the entire hunt. He would pick me up, but yeah, it was one of those deals where I was basically done. And if I'm quite honest with you, I've had about 3 or 4 different experiences now when I've been in situations like that, and people can call, either they can interpret this however they want to, but I think I was very, people can say I was determined. I worked through all this crap to kill that bull, and hard work, and I did, but I think God felt pity on me because I was moping around, and I was happening to go back over the hill to glass this one little thicket, and lo and behold, there was a bull there, bedded, and I still couldn't tell if it was the bull that I wanted to kill until he, 10 minutes later, turned his G1 down, and I could tell it was split on both sides, and then I knew instantly it was him, and I shot him in his bed. It was getting close to dark. I shot him in his bed, and I didn't know he was broke until after I watched the video, and even at that, he was broke. He's, I'm not trying to gloat or anything, but he was 394, and I hadn't seen that bull. I'd hunted with that bull with my wife in 2015 was the first time I hunted that bull, and I should have killed him with my wife then if I hadn't have been a dumbass and decided to stalk the bull with my entire family and got busted at 1,000 yards. We would have killed him, and I hadn't seen him on the hoof since 2015. I just had pictures of him. And so I was very fortunate and blessed, but like you were saying, that was literally the only elk I saw in 6 days of hunting, and I'll never kill a bull that big in my entire life unless I get in a position where I can, consistently buy tags, or I doubt I'll never kill a bull that big.
So he had like 40-some inches of broken points.
Yeah, he's. Lee is one of the guys that obviously because, our relationship, that I made sure, because Lee knew about the bull, I made sure Lee brought him to camp one time after that, had Lee hold him, and he doesn't. What's funny is in the pictures when he's on the ground, I was by myself, and the bull was over he was 11 plus years old. They don't age him any past that. I didn't send a tooth off. I still got some teeth I could send off, but he had an old man ass. He was just worn down. I didn't even know if the bull was going to rut. He was just so old. But just goes to show you that in the year before that, he was down. He was probably around 410-ish, and I thought he was going to die. I was really surprised that he didn't die. And then he, last year I'm assuming because of the feed and everything, he blew up. And the dead pictures there, he's got a giant front half. Doesn't have any fat on him, but I couldn't move the bull, so I couldn't really take good pictures of him. Obviously, he's broke. He was a little bit lopsided anyway because he had a split third on the left side and that was broke. But when you actually hold the bull and get to see him in person is when you actually go, gosh dang, this thing's giant, and even I thought he was 380 on the ground right there, and I've taped him twice just for gee whiz, and I've got 392 and change and 394 and change as he sits, broken, gross, and that's enough about that bull. But that area
incredible
in 1880 was punished by people this last year, and I know that was a fluke thing, and I was willing to eat my tag. A lot of times when guys come in with the expectations, they want to kill a 380, or they toss out the 400 number. A lot of guys don't realize that you have a better chance of eating your tag than killing that, and I think it's because guys, the way the marketing is now, the guys see all the pictures, and what they don't realize is, one outfitter's got 40 or 50 guys, and they're throwing up 10 bulls that are, in the 370 to 400 range, and then all of a sudden everybody's killing 400s, and another guy, they kill a 400 over here where they don't realize that they took 5 or 6 guys, and you know what I mean, and then a DIY guy kills a 400. So everybody wants to kill 400, but they don't realize that you have a better chance of eating your tag than you do killing a 400-inch bull,
Right.
That's just the truth. And so if you're going to say you want to kill a 400-inch bull, just be prepared, mentally prepared to eat your tag and be happy,
Yeah. Well said. Guys, let's take a quick break here. I want to thank the sponsors of the podcast. I want to thank Go Hunt Insider. Remind you guys that you can go on gohunt.com/JScott. That's going to prompt you to sign up there. You get a $50 Go Hunt Gear Shop gift card just for signing up. Go to gohunt.com/JScott. I also want to thank the Go Hunt optics department. My friend Cody Nelson is the optics manager. If you guys have any optical needs at all, if you're looking to buy anything to do with glassing, binoculars, spotting scopes, tripods, range finders, anything to do with glassing, give Cody a call, 702-847-8747. That's extension 2. You can also send him a text or call him on his cell phone, 602-399-3699. Cody actually just won the Swarovski Optic Dealer of the Year, which is an amazing feat for him. That optics department's only been open for 2 years, but it was obvious to me that it was going to happen. He does an amazing job with customer service. He helps every customer himself, handles all of that, and they have a great staff over at Go Hunt. They supply and getting all the orders shipped out. Give Cody a call if you have any optical needs at all. Also want to thank phonescope.com. Want to tell you guys you can use the JScott20 promo code. That's going to save you a 10% discount. Want to thank Kuiu Ultralight Hunting. If you have any questions about Kuiu, you can call the great customer service there at Kuiu. You can go to kuiu.com. That's KUIU.com. Also want to thank onxmaps.com. Use the JScott20 promo code. That's going to save you 20% at Onyx Maps. Guys, so Unit 10 looking like it's going to be a good year. My prediction is probably Unit 10 will be the shining star of the state this year. I love Unit 10. It's got phenomenal opportunities for just regular public land hunting as well. probably some of the best hunting in the Southwest is found in Unit 10. Obviously, you guys' opportunity there on private land is also speaks for itself, just your photos and videos alone there in Unit 10. I do want to talk to you guys about antelope. You guys historically shoot some of the best antelope in the state. I know you guys live in some of that country right there where some of the best antelope live. So I do want to cover what you guys' thoughts are on some of the best units for antelope. So whichever one of you wants to go, I don't care, but kind of cover some of the... This is all Lee. Cover some of the units that...
Mecca.
He does. He lives... It's like being a fan of Disney and you live in Disneyland. He lives right there in the Prescott Valley area and born and raised.
About that, Jay, is I'm always like, Lee's always like sending me pictures of antelope in his yard and stuff. I'm like, go take some pictures and video of them. And he's like, yeah, I just don't feel right about taking pictures and flaunting them about goats that are, not huntable or not, in my front yard and whatnot. But he does live in America.
Lee's feeding them carrots out of his front patio. Every night they pet him on the head. But yeah, cover some antelope stuff. I know some guys, they want to hear from you guys as to what you think are the top tier units, and then I'll pick away with some questions as it comes up.
Okay. Well, for antelope, this year for guys that have near max points or 20-some antelope points, we've been recommending and steering guys towards some of the units, even for non-residents, 19B, 18A, and if they want to, step down to a muzzleloader, there's some good opportunity in muzzleloader for the 19B, 17B unit. Some units like that have minimal amount of tags, because Unit 10, there'll always be a few big bucks in Unit 10, and a lot of guys go for that, but Unit 10's really been struggling for age class. So if a guy's got a lot of points, we haven't even been recommending Unit 10. If you're in that mid-range bracket where you have, 15 or in the teens points or less, then I would say Unit 10 is not a bad choice, because you don't have as much invested in it, and you're in the lottery pool anyways. That's going to give you better odds. The only unit that's got considerable amount of tags that allows non-residents to draw and maybe have a better hunt would be 5B. That's probably been our number one recommendation for non-residents, is 5B as a first choice. But in the units 19B, 18A, 17B, even 17A, it's only got a couple of tags. For guys that have lower amount of bonus points, there's always some really big bucks in there that can be found. There's not a lot of them, but that's where I would recommend guys apply or suggest they apply.
One of the things that I'm not an antelope guy at all, but one of the things that strikes me about antelope is, you don't necessarily need in comparison to, say, elk or deer, where you need that animal to be, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I mean, you could have some really good antelope at 4 years old, potentially even 3 years old. But, I mean, you get an antelope to 5 years old, you can get some really big bucks. Talk a little bit about that as far as quality and how a unit can kind of, if a few bucks slip through the cracks very quickly, it can grow some giants. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's been quite a few recent studies and people discussing that more in depth here lately about antelope age class, and I don't know that I agree with it completely. Some guys say that 3 years old, a buck's maxed out or can be as big as he's ever been, and I tend to lean a little bit more towards 4 years old. Their bodies still got to grow completely before they can max out their horns. So 3 to 4 years old, they say, is maximum or the most potential for the best score. So that that being said, in some of these units that have 5 tags or 10 tags that are, less opportunity, there's a lot greater opportunity for bucks to get to 3 years old or 4 years old and survive, whereas in Unit 10, you have 85 tags or 80 tags in there. There's been a wide sweep of bucks just getting slaughtered basically in the high density areas, and there's not very much room for any of them to slip through the cracks that are 2 years old. All the 3-year-old bucks get shot, and there's not very many that slip through the cracks. The departments will lower the tags a little bit more than they did in Unit 10 this year. I think they took 5 out of there for the rifle hunt. So we'll see. We'll see what happens this year. Maybe a little bit drier spring will be a little better for the antelope bucks' growth and horns. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to watch to see what happens to Unit 10's antelope here in the next couple of years.
Last year it was in Unit 10. Looking at my notes and everything, it was tough to find antelope. Didn't see a lot of fawns. It was really hot, and that's the thing is that I don't think we're seeing the fawn recruitment's not there in Unit 10. It's not there in a lot of the units, but specifically Unit 10. And like Lee said, it's a massacre. The first couple of days and very competitive. And I don't know exactly as Lee alluded to, but it sure does seem like a buck can get big. Between the ages of 4 and 5 for sure, even though, supposedly, 3, they're hitting their biggest stride, but I got to think it's kind of like, deer and elk, whereas, one buck may get big at, 3, but the next buck, if he gets the right year, he might get big at 4 or 5. I know they don't last too much longer than that, as far as, their size, their life cycle is pretty short. But the fawns, just there's not enough. We don't have enough fawns. I know. I don't know if Lee talked to one of the guys from Unit 10, but I know one of them called me, and I feel bad now that we talk about this because I didn't call him back. And I noticed the tag numbers are not as low as what Lee and I thought they should be. It was pretty bad last year, so I hate to see. I don't think Unit 10, I don't think the entire state, as far as pronghorn in Arizona right now, is very good. It doesn't seem like it. There's a lot of subdivisions going up in some of these other units. H&A is a good unit for some big bucks, has some great genetics, but there's a lot of rural houses in there. I think there's a lot of poaching going on in there. 19B is another one. Both those units, I'll tell you, if you're a listener and you apply for those units, better be prepared to see, subdivision roads and a tough access, but that's sometimes where a big buck can be on a little chunk of state trust land in the middle of that. And so it's getting tougher and tougher to, find those areas that, just like where Lee lives in the Chino area, a lot of the areas that antelope, used to thrive in are being developed in some of these better units. And then it seems like Unit 10's taking the brunt of the pressure because there's so much space and there's a fair amount of antelope. But last year, I don't know if there was a die-off or what their count was, but I know ours was horrible. So that's kind of my 2 cents into it.
Well, I think when you have a horrible monsoon like we did, which that's a huge amount of moisture, when you take the percentage of moisture that falls throughout the year, when you eliminate the monsoon moisture, you're taking out a huge chunk that ground is typically getting throughout the year. You take that out, you have very little cover for, you talk about fawn recruitment. I mean, if there's no cover for the fawns, right, they're going to get ate up by the predators. And so you talk about, Yeah, and why does fawn recruitment have anything to do with big bucks? Well, that fawn 3 to 5 years from now is going to be the bucks that you're chasing. So yeah, it has everything to do with it when you're looking into future years. The other interesting thing you point out is I was talking with Tom McReynolds last year on a podcast over in New Mexico, and he talks about, great elk antler growth years are typically not good antler growth or horn growth years for antelope. He says on those more droughty years where the elk is down, the antelope is up. Can either one of you either agree with that theory? Because I've heard it a lot, that when it's actually drier, the antelope do better. Why is that?
I think it
I've
has
heard that same thing.
I think it has something to do with what they eat, Jay. In the spring when their horns are going on full development. I think if there's a lot of rain, whatever the rain makes grow, the feed grows faster. There's not as much nutrients in that feed that the antelope might eat. Whereas if it's a little drier or more of an average year, dry-wise, the antelope are eating, the feed that they're eating has a lot of strength or a lot of protein in it compared to faster-growing feed from a lot of rain. So I think that's my theory as why the antelope may have better horns on a little bit drier or more of an average spring.
Have you seen an actual study on that, Lee? Because, I've heard people talk about it. At one time, I thought I saw one on the Arizona Antelope Foundation.
Yeah, I've read a few things on it, and I don't know. I think that's a contributing factor. It's just, I think it's the type of feed that they're eating and the moisture content. Because I know in cattle, that's a big thing. You have a really, really wet spring or really wet summer, lots and lots of rain. The feed might grow really, really tall and be super green, but it doesn't necessarily have as much strength in it as it would if it was a little less rain and shorter feed because it grows slower and it's got more nutrients in it.
Yeah, makes sense. That's good stuff. Guys, I want to give you any final concluding thoughts. I want to give you guys a chance to say anything, and I'm getting lots of guys sending me messages saying that they want to see me and Craig Steele play one-on-one basketball. So I'm just wondering if we can make that happen.
Oh my gosh!
I just want to know if I could dunk over you. That's my main thing. Is if we played one-on-one, would I dunk right over the top of you?
Yeah, you probably would. Just be like the old Kurt Rambis dunk. Just launch off.
If that happens, I definitely want to be there to video. So just keep me posted on that. I don't want to miss that. If anything like Craig Steele's arm wrestling episode, I definitely got to see this.
Come on, man. One time I do something.
Hey, well, you won. You beat him at arm wrestling. Not Jay, but you beat that guy at arm wrestling. It was good. It was good stuff.
One time I have a little too much to drink. I don't know what I have that. I saw something the other day that I texted Lee about that I thought was funny when you said something. You were fielding calls from Arizona elk hunters and they need to wash their mouths out if they mentioned 380 to 400. What was that about?
I just think Arizona, in my opinion, over the last 10 years, the quality has steadily declined. And I'm an outfitter that, I don't guide in Arizona for elk anymore. Maybe I will someday, but at this time I'm over in Colorado and I don't guide for elk. I do guide for bighorn sheep here, so I can easily sit back and kind of look at it from a third-party point of view and be like, I understand, the outfitters are trying to make a living, and I understand every year, all the outfitters, every couple of years, everyone has their day in the sun, and they shine and shoot a really good bull. But I believe that, like 2005, some of those years, but prior to 2010, we haven't seen the size and quality that I used to guide, 20 years of guiding in Arizona, and I think overall the quality has dropped. And I talked to several guys on the phone, and I got home from Mexico. I've been going 18 days in Mexico, and then they want to talk elk, and I'm like, I don't guide for elk anymore, but I'm happy to help you with some opinions of mine. And they're saying, well, I've got 22 points, and I'm planning to do archery, but I want a 380 plus bull. And I said, okay, how many bulls have you killed? Well, I actually haven't killed a bull yet with my bow, but I've got 22 points, and I want a 380 plus bull. And I just stop right there, like, stop, hold the phone, stop. Just stop where you're at. I don't even want to go any further. You've never killed an elk with your bow and you want a 380 plus bull. That's a great goal to have, but it's not realistic. Yes, there'll be some 380 plus bulls, and probably this year there'll be a couple of 400-inch bulls shot. Yes, in the statewide. But you're not hiring a guide. You're coming in DIY. The chances of you finding one of those bulls in one of these units is slim to none. Let's take the realistic approach and say, let's start chasing bulls that are 350 or better. Let's show up 2-3 weeks before your hunt and scout like crazy, and then let's scout for the whole first part of your hunt where you're just glassing, you're not actually out hunting, you're trying to find one bull, and then you take the last week of the hunt, try and kill that bull. Okay, maybe your chances of killing something, 360, 370 plus, maybe go up a little bit. But I just think, 350 is the new norm. That should be the benchmark that a lot of guys should be chasing. If you've killed 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bulls with your bow, and your best is 357, and you want to try for that 360 plus, go for it. But let's be realistic about what is in front of you and what tag you have, because what people do is they set themselves up for failure. They've built this up to be Arizona back in the early 2000s or mid 2005, right in there, 7. And it's just not. It's not the quality. There's too many tags. The hunters are getting better. The optics are getting better. I mean, it's just the truth. And so I think people's expectations have just, every year seems like they need to be readjusted.
Yeah, I saw that, and I thought it was comical. We don't get too much of that. Well, we've had a few times where, we've actually had guys, freaking hire us because another outfit is there'll be 2 or 3, because there's some other good outfitters. I'm not saying we're the only ones that are good in Arizona at all, but we've had conversations, or I've had conversations with the guys and been like, well, it was down to you and these guys, and then these guys over here were saying this, and it's just amazing that there's a lot of guys out there who will just throw out big numbers because they think people are stupid, and there is some naive people out there, but those big numbers like that are, like you said, they're rarer than not. And people hear the bull that I killed, and what they don't realize is how much time, how much I know the country, and I have a rifle so I can kill them. When you're talking archery, and
you're willing to go the whole hunt and not see an elk. That's the thing that,
be perfectly content,
I'll go, I have 16 points for elk and may or may not even apply this year. Likelihood is I may not even carry my bow. I may go up to a point and glass for 5 or 6 or 7 days and never even carry my bow. I don't need to go hunt to act like I'm a hunter. I want to kill a giant. And in order to do that, sometimes you have to plan on going to places where you're not going to see a ton of elk, or you're just looking for that one bull. And I think sometimes people don't understand what goes into it,
and chances are you're still not going to kill,
Absolutely. I'm going to eat a tag. Like, I had a tag in one of the best units in Utah. I had a beaver tag in 16 and literally found one bull. Tony put me on a good bull, and we hunted it the whole time, and I didn't kill him. I should have, but I didn't. And I went home. It's one of the best elk hunts I've ever been on. And I don't have 1 ounce of regret at all, other than I should have killed the bull, and I didn't. And, it is what it is. But that's how you kill giant stuff, is you have to be able to go home without one. And not many people can do that.
Amen.
Guys, I want I want the listeners to be able to know how they can reach out and find you. So would you do that now? And I just appreciate you guys coming on the podcast, sharing your knowledge, and you guys have been good friends for a lot of years, and it's always fun talking to you.
Yeah, man.
Well,
the best
thanks
way
for
to
having
find
us on, Jay.
Go to exclusivepursuitoutfitters.com and you can go to the contact page. You can also look up, Exclusive Pursuit Outfitters on Instagram and on Facebook and message us there. Instagram's a little bit easier to message. Facebook's Messenger is a little bit messed up, but you can email us from our website too. So if you have any questions.
Awesome. Get a hold of these guys for elk and antelope. Love seeing your pictures. Love watching the videos and the content on your website and on your Instagram page. Guys, good luck with that raffle sheep hunter. You've got some great hunting ahead of you, and look forward to seeing the tags that you guys get and draw. And it's always great having you on. And Craig, just keep at it, keep that vertical going, and work on your left-hand dribble a little bit, and you might be able to hang with me. So, with that being said, God bless you both.
All right, bye.
All right, Jay. Thanks again for having us on.
Take care.